Rodriguez, Kuya Mario. And then after his talk, we're going to listen to Helen Kong's message. I think Carlo, who did the notes? He did the notes. We'll hear Helen Kong's message from Saturday. Kuya Mario, surprise!
Thank you, everyone. I thank you, Jerome. I'm surprised, really. So anyway, this evening wasn't really planned for us. Early this morning, I got off shift and didn't realize that my boss wanted to meet with me. And so she said, I have to adjust your schedule. And so I said, oh, really? And, the only thing I was concerned about was trying to make sure that there were other things that she took into consideration, most especially with some of the vacation time that I needed for the mission. But the beauty about it was, she said, oh, by the way, you're not working tonight. But she said, you're working Wednesday and Friday. And so the first thing that came to mind was, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to go to the staff meeting, right? And I won't be able to come here for the vigil for First Friday. But wala nga eh, so that's good. And at the same time, after I got off of work, I went straight to my second job, right? Which is at my day job. And as I was getting ready for some lecture, I was thinking, Mahaling, what do you want me to do? What would you like me to do? And I remember what he said in the late 90s, early 2000s. He said, if you can't work for me at night, right, then work for me in the day. And very similar to what Ate Tess said about balance, about balance. Now, on the way here, my wife and I were talking about some things that were very inspiring. And she's going to kill me for this, but I'm going to ask her to come up. Oh, yes. Alam mo ha? But, dahil lang saglit lang, okay? Dahil we're talking about Martha and Mary, right? But they also mentioned Lazarus. And I just want you to, kung okay lang, my sister wife, right? If you can mention what we talked about in the car regarding Lazarus. So, brothers and sisters, let's hear it for Sister Mabel Macayaon. Sorry.
Nagaan talaga. Pagpunta rito, naghuhugas lang ako ng plato, tapos nandito na ako ngayon. Anyway, sige. I'm your sister in Christ, Sister Mabel Macayaon. Very fortunate to have graduated from the Banana Pag-aaral Panawagan Class number 129, September 5 to 7, 1986 in Novaliches, Philippines, under the grace of God. Also very fortunate to have graduated from the Marian Retreat in 1992 in Lucena City, Philippines, under the blessing and guidance of Mama Mary. So, last Friday po, let me give a little background of why Lazarus came up in our conversation today on the way here. So last Friday, it was my goodbye to Inland Empire because, as you all know, we all were surprised when we found out nalilipat na pala ang mga staff with the staff advisors. So we had our last vigil. I had my last vigil with the senior women, and so I said my goodbyes, and then when it was kind of like wala nang mapag-usapan, tinawag ni Kuya Rico si Rosel, the president. And she goes, Rosel, why don't you share with us for a little bit? So Rosel just came back twice, back and forth from France, because yun yung kanyang base of her work. So she went before Santa Cruzan for a week, came back for Santa Cruzan, left again, and then 1 week, and then come back. And so she said that I did not go to Paris, but I went to the south part of France, which is Marseille. Marseille, whatever. Dunyud. Anyway. So sabi niya, beautiful town by the Mediterranean coast. So habang nandun daw siya, yung mga co-workers nila were saying na, oh yes, this is where Lazarus came after Jesus died, because it is the mission na binigay sa kanya to propagate Christianity in that part of France. And so, there in Marseille, you can find out the body of Lazarus. She actually saw, because in the end, she was beheaded. He was beheaded. And so, nandun yung skull ni Lazarus. But while he was there, he was able to build many churches. I forgot the exact number, maybe 11 or more, or 21, something like that. But sabi niya, the sad part was, all these churches are now just tourist attractions because no one goes to church anymore in Marseille. And so, dinala siya doon ng mga co-workers niya because this is the tour of the mission, something like that, without any background. And it was actually her who kind of introduced Lazarus to them. And then at the very top of a mountain, they also built a church with a golden statue of the Blessed Mother. They don't know her. They only know that she is the protector of the city. And the city would revolt if anything would happen to that statue of the Blessed Mother. That's all they know. They don't know that she's the mother of Jesus and what she can do for us. That ganun ka-empty ang spirituality in that part of France. And so, after she shared that, sabi ko sa mga kapatid, you know what came to mind? Habang kinukwento mo yun sa amin was, how sad would it be if that would happen to the BNP? Because we are the last people that Ate taught. We are the last people who encountered Malnengkong. But if we do not take responsibility on telling that story, giving that testimony to our children so that they too would know Malnengkong and what happened to us in the mission, so that our children would also have that parang responsibility to tell it to their children, and so on and so forth. If we do not take that responsibility in our time, then that sad thing that's happening now in Marseille could happen also in the BNP kasi hindi natin pinagpatuloy ang mission. And so yun yung what I was telling Kuya Mario on our way here, na each one of us really have to be proactive in sharing our experiences so it would not be forgotten. So that yung investment sa atin ng ate ng Malnengkong maipagpatuloy. Kasi the mission should not stop. It depends on us. So, yun lang. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Nathan. All right. Before anything else, I do want to thank our speakers this evening. Sister Angeline, let's give her a hand. This is the first time I heard you speak, Sister Angeline. You did it with such command, no? Although you don't think that maybe you presented yourself that way. Sister, you know what? As Ate would always say, fake it till you make it. No one's gonna know. No, really. And of course, Ate Tess, thank you so much for your wisdom, for being here. And of course, our handsome moderator here, who's also a junior boy like myself, for life, Allow me to jump in the BNP way. I'm your brother in Christ, Brother Mario Macayaon. Very fortunate to have graduated the Junior Boys Apostolic Mission Class number 83 on January 19, 20, 21, 1990, under the grace of God. and ever so fortunate to have graduated the Marian Retreat in 1995 in San Diego under the blessings of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And so as I was listening to all of you speaking this evening, nagdadasal po ako dyan, sabi ko, mahalain ko, Lord, what do I say? And so many things were coming to my mind. Experiences with mahalain ko, experiences with Ate Salve, experiences with this chapter. I was looking at Ate Tess, and I remember the first time that I stepped foot in Chicago, the very first place that they brought us was to her house. No? And I remember it was the very first time that I saw a different version of snow. No? Because mga kapatid, I'd never seen snow before. But by her house, there was snow, but it wasn't white, it was brown. Sabi ko, bakit ganon? But it had been sitting there for quite some time. And so Joe goes, Joe came up, where are you, Joe? There you are. And so I saw Joe and I said, you got snow over there, but why is it that color? And he looked at me and goes, it's always like that. And so, but I was remembering things from the past, no, about the mission that was given to us. And I also remember there are many times that Mahanek would talk about Martha and Mary and Lazarus. And I remember Ate's description about the relationship between Mahalengkong and this family, because they were very close. What most people didn't know is when Mahalengkong and the apostles would go out on the mission, Lazarus and their family would finance this. People didn't know that. But out of love for Mahalengkong and this mission, they chose to finance this. And yet, if you go back, they weren't just, acquaintances. They weren't just friends, but really, if you look at the relationship, they were family. They were family. And it was true. When a servant came to Mahalengkong and said, Master, I come from the house of Mary and Martha and the house of Lazarus, your friend, who is sick and almost to the point of death. Mary and Martha are asking that you should come to us. And what did Mahalengkong say? He said, thank you for this. And so the apostles were looking at Mahalengkong and they were saying, what is the master going to do? What is this city here? What is this city here? This city right now. Sin City, okay? Okay. But what's the next neighboring city here? Huh? Carson City. And after Carson City, what's after Carson City? Arizona, okay. What's the opposite over here? Because what I'm trying to point out is this. Let's forget about this. We have Ontario, right? Where I live is in Miraloma, Eastvale area, right? But if you go to the west of Ontario is Chino. Ba? So, as an example lang if Mahalengkong during that time was in Ontario, and Lazarus, right, was in Chino, he was sick in Chino. Can you imagine during that time, after receiving this message from the servant, right, Mahalengkong looked at the apostles who were wondering what he was going to do, and he said, let's go to Eastvale. And so they were puzzled. And so Mahalengkong journeyed with them to go to this far off city, which was the opposite direction of where Lazarus was. And there was discussion amongst these apostles. But most amazing was this. That servant came back looking for Mahalengkong, and when he saw Peter, he said, can you tell the master that Lazarus is gone? That he doesn't have to go there anymore? And so there was this commotion amongst the apostles. And as they were talking in their confusion, what did Mahalengkong say? He said, let us go to where Lazarus is and we will wake him up. And look at the apostles' reaction. Very, very similar to how you and I would react. Peter simply said, Master, what do you mean? Wake him up. Because they were confused. They just found that he was dead. And what did Mahalengkong say? And I'll say it in colloquial terms. What he said was, look, I know he's dead. I know he's dead, but we're going to go there and we're going to raise him up. And so I guess one of the things that I'd like to point out is at times we have to remember that the apostles were not blind followers. They were not blind followers. In fact, when they were confused, they would always ask. And true enough, when Mahal ni Kong came to the house of Lazarus, Mary, and Martha, we all know what the story turns out. He raised them up from the dead. But it gets even better. You know, as I was listening to Sister Angeli and Ate Tess, I remember what Mahal ni Kong said about how Martha was always concerned about the work in the home. But I also remember about what he said about Mary, right? And at some time he said Mary took the best part, right? She chose the best part. But here's the thing. I also remember Ate telling us what Mahal ni Kong's expecting from each and every one of us is this: to have both their best characteristics. I'm going to step away from this, and I want to go to the time when Mahal ni Kong called each and every one of us. Each and every one of us. But let me rewind 2,000 years ago. Remember his instruction to the apostles when he first met them. What did he say? He said, "Come, follow me. Come, follow me." And when they followed Mahal ni Kong, they sat with him, they ate with him, they would spend nights talking about the Jewish law and tradition and how Mahal ni Kong wanted it to be. He would clarify the law of Moses and tell them, this is what it needs to be like. But in those days when they followed Mahal ni Kong, they would listen to him. Now, there came a time after they would learn from Mahal ni Kong, and his simple instruction was what? Go out now and make disciples of all nations. Teach them everything that I've taught you. And so most people don't realize that even though this instruction came towards the end of his ministry, these instructions are given to us to follow every day. What do I mean by that? Maybe in the morning, Mahal ni Kong would say, "Come follow me. I want to speak to you this morning, and I want to give you something so that when you go out there, it won't just be you, it'll be you and I." But oftentimes, brothers and sisters, sometimes we unconsciously live a dual citizenship. What do I mean by that? For example, last night when I went into work, there have been times that I would go into the hospital setting and I would forget to invite Mahal ni Kong and say, "Lord, tara na, be with me. Use my hands, use my heart, use my lips, so that it won't be me, but it will be you." Oftentimes, we forget that wherever we go, whatever we do, that Mahal ni Kong is hoping we would always invite him. When he says, "Come, follow me," it means I want you to stay silent, and I want you to listen to what I have to say to you, even though your mind doesn't understand, but your soul will. And when he says, "Go," I want you to go out there and show them that I am the truth, that I have come in your own time through an instrument, that my presence in your life is powerful enough to change every one of you. You know, I was talking to a handful of brothers and sisters. We were at Applebee's, right? It was one of our brother's birthday. And at the Ching, you know them, Mike, Vicky, Junjun, Roselle, right? You know them. But as a witness, you can testify that these kids, including myself, we grew up more than half our lives here in the B&B. And the most beautiful thing that we were talking about is this. We were looking at each other and we were saying, maybe we have changed. Maybe there's a good chance that Mahal ni Kong calling us has changed us. And we were looking at each other. Well, besides the physical part, right? We have changed. We've decided to make a conscious choice to turn away from sin. We have changed. Now, mga kapatid, I remember, when you look at Martha and Mary, every time Mahal Lingkong would come to them, they would drop everything. But I remember something in my service to Ate Mahal Lingkong that was almost similar to this. Do you know, Ate Salve loves to sing. She loves to sing. And someone came up to me and said, Brother Mario, do you know what Ate Salve's favorite song was? Just out of the blue. I said, bro, I don't know what her favorite song was because I don't believe there was a favorite song. Because the reason why I feel why she wanted to sing, right? Why she loved to sing is because through her song, she could talk to each and every one of us. And I said, Brother Joel, I think that every time she went up in front of a crowd, she chose certain songs so that she could connect with each and every one of us. Because I remember, she would give me a list of 25 songs. And when I would start a song, Ate would look at me and say, and I said, okay, next. And then when I would play the next song, Ate would look at me and say, and I said, but we practiced this. But you know what? Every time she would sing these songs, I realized it was customized to everybody who was listening to her. And they were songs of love. They were songs of hope. They were songs of her promise to you and I that she would always be with us. And so, I remember I would get these beautiful texts from either Kuya Nilo, from Ate Diane, or from Sister Inday. And these texts, I've kept them in my phone, right? But when I look back at them, I would remember in the middle of a workday, at 9 a.m. in the morning, I would get a text from Ate Dai, and she would say, Mario, Ate's wondering if you guys can practice. And I said, yes po, Ate Dai. When would you like to practice? Then the response was, at 1 a.m. today, or 1 p.m. today. Sabi ko, 1 p.m.? That's 9 a.m.? Am I gonna drop everything? And I would always, for some odd reason, I would tell the guys, brothers, Ate Salve is asking if we could practice at 1 p.m. today. And everybody would respond to me within 10-15 minutes. Yes, we'll be in Claremont by 1 p.m. I would drop everything cold turkey. And my wife knows this. What about your work? Ate would ask us, Ate, you know what? When do we get a chance to play for the instrument of God? And my wife's a witness to this. It didn't just happen once. It didn't happen twice. It happened multiple times, all throughout the month. In a given month, we'd practice what? 4, 5 times, right? And we would drop everything cold turkey. Why? Because we wanted to learn from her. Because we knew that Mahalin was there. I remember there was a time when we were asked to show up at maybe 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And we were just getting off of work, but everyone showed up. And before you know it, when we set up our instruments and we played for Ate, she sang, do you remember that song, You Must Love Me? That's her warm-up song, no? From Evita, that's her warm-up song. And the most amazing thing is after we sung that song, she looked at us and she said, aren't you hungry? And I said, what po, Ate, we only sang one song. And she said, no, but you look hungry. And so I said, okay, mga kapatid, let's eat. But I realized that the reason why Ate asked us to come there is because that evening, Mahalin ko would come and speak to us. And what's amazing was this. The very first statement that he said was, do you know how much I love you? Do you know how much I love your families and your children? Do you know that I love them more than you could ever imagine. And so, this is just one of many episodes where Maling ko would come during a band practice and tell us different things. He talked to us about being sensitive. He talked to us about being angry. He talked to us about change. And he said, I remember one of the things that he said was, I wish one day you could say to me, Mahalin ko, I love you so much. You know, right after he said that, all of us said, Mahalin ko, I love you so much. But you know, I came to realize that it wasn't just that. He wants it to be in our actions. One of the things that, guys, are you ready for chismis? Okay lang. So I came back from Ohio, and I was a little bit confused about Mahalikung's message about Mary and Martha. Okay? In fact, he also included the two brothers. Do you remember? The father asked them, would you go to the field, right, and work? And one of the sons said, yes, I'll do it. But besides the yes, he never went out to work. There was another son who said, no, I don't want to go. But because he felt guilty, he went out anyway. Okay? And so after talking about these two sons, and after talking about Mary and Martha, right, he asked us, who do you think is more worthy, Mary or Martha? And amongst the two sons, who do you think are worthy? And so I was going to ask Ate, which of these two are worthy? Is it okay for me to ask Ate about these two sisters? And Ate said, yes, it is. But Mario, I have a question for you. And I said, yes po Ate, what is that? And then she said, I heard you got into an argument with this sister. And I said, Ate, it's all my fault, really. Ate, I was very tired that Wednesday staff meeting. And Ate, I had just disciplined one of my kids. And so mentally, psychologically, physically, I was not ready po. And then when this sister made a comment, I was so sensitive that I went up to the staff meeting and I said, you know what? I don't think what you're saying is right. And you know what? We're not finished. Mga kapatid, I don't even know why I responded to her that way. But when I looked at Ate, I said, Ate, it was all my fault. And she goes, no, I don't care about whose fault it was. Where's that sister? I want you to call her now. So I go, huh? And I said, do you want me to call her? And she said, yes. I said, okay. So I was looking for her in the CAC. I said, sister, can you come with me? Why? Galit pa sa akin. She said, why? I said, Ate asked me to call you. She said, why? Nagbago na yung why niya eh. I don't know, but she told me to call you. And so, this sister and I hadn't spoken for almost 8 months. Diba, 6 to 8 months, parang ganun eh. And anytime I tried to text her, she wouldn't respond. No response. So I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so she came with me, and there was Ate sitting down with her arms folded like this. She said, I heard that the both of you got into an argument. Tell me about it. And so I said, I started confessing to Ate. I was on my knees and I said, Ate, really it was my fault. And sabi niya, don't tell me whose fault it was. Tell me what happened. And so I told her what happened, and then she explained her story. And her next question was this: are you not friends? Did you not grow up in the BNP together? Why did it take you so long to even speak to each other? Why did you wait until now to fix things up? Why? And so she said, do you know that things like this will always happen? But you're family. You're not just brothers and sisters. Malekong has bound you not just by anything but the Spirit. And remember what Malekong said. You are more than brothers and sisters of the flesh, because I've bound you by the Spirit, which is much closer than you would ever imagine. And so I looked at her and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I was like that. It was all my fault. And then she said, no, it was my fault too. And it was, she said this, but it took Ate to tell us this shouldn't have happened. And not realizing that in the end, one of the reasons why she was sharing this to myself and our sister was she also was getting hurt physically. She was getting hurt. No? And so this is what I remember about Mary and Martha, no? About my own faults, about Ate's teaching me that remember what Mahaling said. Do not be angry, because anger will turn into resentment. Resentment will turn into hate. And hate will divide you and your brothers and sisters. No? This is one lesson I remember when it comes to this story. Although somehow it's not really connected if you think about it. But the chairperson connected me to this story with my mistake. Now, mga kapatid, I'm reminded of what Mahaling said the very first time he fell as he was carrying the cross. Do you remember what his statement was? As the Blessed Mother was having flashbacks of when he was a little boy, falling and scraping his knees. Do you remember what his statement was? When the Blessed Mother finally came to Mahaling who fell down, his statement was this, and he was smiling. And he looked at her, and there was this joy in his eyes, and this excitement, if you can imagine, because the statement that he made was, look, Mother, and see how I make things new. Look how I make everything new. Why would I even say this? Do you know? I was privileged to make it to Mahaling's message last Saturday. And you know, when I came out of that CAC, I realized that what Mahaling had done to me, and like to all of us, is he made us new again. He gave us a sense of clarity. Remember he was talking about Abraham, right? And how Abraham was bargaining. And what did he say? I want all of you to also do this. I want you to bargain for the people in the world. And so that I can extend the mercy of the Father to them. Well, how would you and I be able to bargain? Well, it's all about a choice. If I decide to change my life and step towards holiness, then maybe I can bargain. Remember what Ate Salve asked one time? She said, when you pray, does Mahaling hear you or does he listen to you? Two different things. Because you can hear me right now, but you may not be digesting what I'm saying. But if you're listening to me, right, and you're embracing that message, it's way different. So when we pray, the question that Ate was asking us is, when you pray, does Mahaling only hear you? Or does he truly listen to you? And so, only you can answer that. And only you and I can change it. Mga kapatid, you know what? As I would always say, look at all of us. We are a handful of diabetics, hypertensives, right? And many other chronic, issues. But you know the most amazing thing? And we have the youth, right? But we have the youth. But the most amazing thing is this. Mahaling is hoping that through our change, we can bargain for this world and help save it. One soul, one family at a time. Really. For me, this evening, bless you. For me this evening, I don't know about you, but I was so excited to be here. When I went up to my wife, I said, babe, what do you think about going to Las Vegas? She goes, you're crazy. But you know, my gauge was this. You know, this beautiful, this gorgeous woman right here has been changing my diet. Oh my Lord. See? Okay? Nothing has changed, but just the diet, okay? The beauty about this is I feel a whole lot better. And my gauge this morning is after I did my lecture this morning, I went straight to sleep and I woke up at 1:30. And you know what? I felt like I slept 8 hours. Really, I did. And so I looked at her and I said, babe, what do you think about going to Vegas? She said, you're crazy. But you know what? There's something in my heart that was telling me, you need to go. You need to go because much grace is going to be given to you and your brothers and sisters. And this evening, I don't know if you could feel it. It's in the air. You remember that song? Love is in the air. Diba? It's here. But here's the thing. We must protect it. Mahal has made us anew. He has cleaned our souls. Some of you may say, I wasn't there at the grand altar. It doesn't matter. The fact that we're here, the fact that we're listening to this message, in a split instance, Mahal can make us new again. And if I fail, if you fail, the beauty about it is this. Just be sincere. Mahal said, be honest with me, my child. And if you ask me with all sincerity, I will give you what you need. You know, on our way here to Las Vegas, my wife and I were reflecting. Mahal, he's so good. He's given us so many things in life that we don't deserve. Like our 4 kids. Our 4 kids, right? And you know, the most amazing thing is this. As I'm listening to this, I was reminded of my kids. You know, how could I be Martha to my son? How could I be a Mary to my daughters? How could I reflect this? And you know, as some of you were talking, I remember the dishes and the pots that my son would leave in the sink. You know? And I would look at him and he'd be watching his Glee, right, on the TV. And there I would be. Here's the kitchen sink and he's there. And I would look at this and I would look at him, right? And you know what would come to mind was this? No, Mahal, you know what? For love of him and for love of you, I'm going to watch this. Really? And anyway, how many more years will I have my son in this home? What a great privilege to serve him while he's still here. I think that when Mahal spoke to Mary, or rather to Martha, when she was a little irritated at her sister, really what Mahal was saying is, Martha, what you're doing is correct too. But because you became angry, you lost your grace. How often are we engaged in the works of Mahal, and when we pick up our head, we look at a brother or sister and we say, wala kang ginagawa eh. What are you doing there? You know, and you're like, right? But you know what, mga kapatid? If we are engaged in work, hard work, right? And you focus on Mahal, then it becomes a beautiful offering. Same thing. Mary was listening to Mahal because she was focused on him. You and I truly know, especially now, that in everything that we do in life, we can always be with Mahal. Always. Even if it looks terrible. No? I asked Ate one time, Ate, can I stop going to school? Right? And she said, no. And I said, sige po. And you know, sometimes I would have to ask Mahal, Lord, this is suffering for me. But you know what? I'm going to find you in all this. I really will. And so, brothers and sisters, the essence of Mary and Martha, I truly believe Mahal wants us to take the best of each character and apply it in our own life. Earlier, we talked about balance. But I remember one thing that Mahal said. I don't want 50% of you. I said, oh, okay, that's pretty good. I don't want 75% of you. And he said, I don't even want 100% of you. I said, well, what do you want? And then he said, I want 110% of you. I said, really? Well, mga kapatid, have you ever, Kuya Mar, I know you fell in love, right? But do you remember the first time you realized that you're in love with Ate Liz? You have to admit to me, you couldn't stop thinking about her, right? Diba? Ganon din sa Mahal. Mga kapatid, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I could see, mga kapatid, from my point of view, his eyes right now, they're glowing. But here's the thing. When was the last time that you and I found ourselves truly and totally in love with Mahalinko. You know, the only way we're going to be able to help this world is if each and every one of us go back to Him. And I'll say it in Tagalog. We need to go back. Sana, kung po pwede lang, ligawin natin ulit ang Mahalinko. Let's court Him. And let's show Him how much we love Him. But you know, the most challenging thing is this. Lord, how can I show you how much I love you in this coworker that I don't like? This family or relative that is so irritating. Or this son or daughter that doesn't want to listen to me. No. You know what? Remember what Mahalinko said? Look through my eyes. You remember your song? The song that you loved to sing during the retreat? And we looked at Mahalinko. In my mind, I said, we sing many songs. And then he said, you remember that song, Looking Through the Eyes of Love? He said, why don't you change one word? He said, looking through the eyes of God. Because if you look through my eyes, all you will see is goodness. And so, the only thing I can say this evening, brothers and sisters, let's fall in love with Mahalinko more and more. He is the essence of love. But you know, if you make it so that you make Him everything in all that you do, promise you, it's going to come back, not just to us, but to this world. No? So, mga kapatid, I didn't want to speak tonight. I wanted to listen to the messages. Really, but I do thank you for embracing us. Your welcome was beautiful. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And as unworthy as I am, allow me on behalf of our chairperson of this hall, on behalf of the Blessed Mother, and on behalf of Mahalinko, the living God, the truth, to extend the grace that He's given to me, right? To all of you, as unworthy as I am. No, really, I'm happy to be here with you guys. And truly, I can tell every one of you, I love you guys. Okay? So good evening.